Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Coffee with Michael Wellen. I'm going to try to get this going again. So four topics for today, 5 minutes each. Jobs, Mexico, tariffs, bookstores. So jobs. First thing I want to note is that my job situation is just fine. I'm pretty secure in where I am. A lot of recruiters, all that kind of stuff. I'm like 5 years in. Um, 6 years in. So I'm not affected by a lot of this stuff, and I happen to be in an area of tech that is kind of hidden, infrastructure, DevOps, that type of stuff. It's all the type of stuff you don't want to think about and is boring. And so platforms, cloud engineering, security updates, image sources, all the boring stuff, not actual coding, but kind of knowing about stuff. So that's where I'm at. I have talked to so many people. Um, who are recent grads or new to the tech market who cannot find anything. These are smart people too. These are very smart people. A few of them. A guy in New York um, wanted to find some kind of job, couldn't find anything. A friend of mine's brother can find a thing. Graduated like 3 months ago, like 6 months ago. The guy in New York had been worked for 6 months and got laid off by they basically told him to automate his job and then let him go when he automated his job. Um, some grad school friends of mine who can't find work. They're remote. They're foreign, so it makes it more difficult. It is a really, really, really bad market. I'm trying to get out of the um, area I'm in, and even with my experience and background, it's tough. In my area, I'm very in demand. Outside my area, it gets tough. Um, Job market's not great, and I'm kind of wondering how this affects things more broadly. Basically, you always wonder where the new money comes from. Like, if you're where do the rich people come from? In the 90s and 2000, it was probably finance bros. For the past from 2010 to 2020, it was basically 2022 is like basically developers. Where if you're not great with people, but you knew computers really well, you could basically count on making a ton of money in tech. I don't know what that field is right now. Like, what do you jump to? Like, my generation, the slogan was, learn the code, bro. What do you tell people to learn right now? What is the field you tell people to do? I don't know if there is one. And that's kind of scary because you kind of want there to be a second chance. Like if you trip or fall or something happens, you want to be able to jump to something. If you work very hard and you pick yourself back up. I don't know what that is right now. Maybe it's blue collar stuff. Maybe. No, one of my baristas in my coffee shop, she's graduated like 2 years ago, working at a coffee shop. That's a nice coffee shop. I have nothing against it. Like somebody who works in a coffee shop provides more value than I do to actual society. Um, but it doesn't pay. So I don't know what's going on. Like maybe it's boomers not retiring. Like boomers got the best economy for their entire careers, and then somehow managed to stay in offices as they get to old age. And not my parents. They retired because they're like, oh, we're done. We did our stuff. Good for them. I feel like a lot of like boomer type people are just kind of like filling a seat that should go to the next generation, you know? Um, but it's also like it shouldn't be this difficult. If you did the right thing, studied a technical field, did what you're supposed to do, there should be a job waiting for you. Especially because the people at the top of our society seem to be a bunch of idiots. Like weird stuff aside, the rulers of our society can't write a damn email. They can't spell. They're not smart people. They're not that good. They don't deserve to be where they're at. They don't. They're just in a frat that does terrible things. Yikes. I'm okay with having evil people ruling society, but I would have liked them to be competent. Oh yeah, check out my new poster. It's the Freeman poster. Yeah, demons, except the demons in Freeman are actually competent. Our demons are not. Okay, so now Mexico. Speaking of demons, what is going on in Mexico? Basically, from what it sounds like, this is gonna be short because I don't really know that much. Um, using American intelligence, a group of a a mafia kingpin in Mexico got assassinated, and as a result, Mexico is basically collapsing. This is bad, and people are like, "Oh, go America! We won. We beat the cartel." We don't want to beat the cartel like this. If Mexico is a failed state, it does not go well. Well, I mean, it doesn't go badly for us, but it's not a good thing. Mexico is our biggest trading partner. We don't want it to collapse. Um, Personally, I think this is a good spot to send the military. People are like, "Oh, what about civil rights or these people?" It's like, no, these are cartel militants. They're not like citizens. If you're a military force that is going around killing people, you're fair game. And would I include this in the United States? No, because we're Americans. But like, you don't just get to oppress everybody else. We're kind of at a point where we can kind of see where we can kind of see who wins. If like who what happens. There are different possible outcomes in society right now. One is that Islam takes over, and it's not going to be the Indonesian or Moroccan type of Islam. It's going to be like the Pakistani version of Islam that oppresses anybody who doesn't agree with them. Nothing against Pakistanis, but your version of Islam sucks. Um, so that's one outcome. Another outcome seems to be narco terrorists. They're in charge of more countries than we like to admit. Um, that's another option. The third option is nativist, traditionalist, uh, Christian culture patriots basically win. And you might not like this if you're a left winger, but I can promise you we're going to be better for left wingers than the other two groups. We're going to be better than Islam, and we're better than the narco terrorists. Now, I know that you're hoping that we get some kind of like Green Party resurgence winning everything. Just doesn't seem to be a long term future. When you have a ideology based around not having kids or reproducing the next generation, it doesn't tend to have a long term option. If you want the long term, you should probably go right wing, even if you're a lefty, because you already know as a lefty that you can beat a right wing country. America was pretty right wing compared to now in the 50s and 40s and 30s and all those times. Eventually, your philosophy won. So the right wing wins now. You can subvert it and make the left wing win in the future. I don't think you can pull the same trick against Islam or narco terrorists. It's not going to work. So, from a lefty perspective, you probably want the right wing to win out of this tripart war that's going to happen. That's happening. So that's what it's going to be. It's that for that reason, I'm kind of on all aboard imperial United States, like as a democracy, of course. But like, I'm kind of okay if we invade Mexico. I'm kind of okay with it. Like Mexico and America has got a had a porous border, anyways. I'd rather have a porous border with a country we actually we actually have security over than a porous border with an narco state. Like if those are the options, I'd rather just own Mexico and take out the cartels. I'd rather that than have cartels rule Mexico. Um, there's a better case for it basically than anything in Greenland, for instance. But I don't really know what's gonna happen. Best prediction is that nothing ever happens. That's always the best prediction. But I would probably say there's gonna be more military actions. And the Mexican president doesn't want it. She's owned by the cartels. No wonder she doesn't want it. Her stance actually makes sense. Um, so yeah. And also, from a political standpoint, probably does help Trump and Republicans. Third third topic, tariffs. Um, doesn't matter. Like, how do I put this? Inflation didn't explode with tariffs. American manufacturing didn't suddenly increase with tariffs. Um, nothing. If you didn't know the tariffs were happening, would you really know they were enacted? Like, yeah, I know there's edge cases, but they do have an impact, sure. And we got to renegotiate some trade deals with a bunch of countries. Okay, so they were good for negotiating, but did they actually matter? Did anybody actually make a decision and say, we were gonna sell 20,000 I'm aging myself, 20,000 computers in America, but because of these tariffs, we're not actually gonna sell them anymore. There's no market. Did did anybody make that decision? Did anybody say, "Hey, we were gonna do business in the United States, but we're not going to. Just gonna ignore the biggest economy on the planet because of 10 to 20% price hike." Nobody made that choice. Nobody made that decision. I don't think this matters. I really don't. I don't think anybody like, yeah, negotiating is gonna be more difficult from now on. But if Trump wants to do some kind of having somebody to threaten terrorists, he's still gonna do it. There are plenty of levers to pull. This is just the most obvious one. Stupid by the Supreme Court. I doesn't the executive have authority over foreign relations? Like, yeah, I know Congress does things like declare war, even though we haven't declared war in 60 years, so that's not true. Um, so is the president able to unilaterally declare war but not enact a tariff? And it's not like this isn't something he ran on. This is like a Democratic mandate. Like, he said he was going to do tariffs. It was part of his policy campaign. It was what he said he was going to do. So, what is exactly is Congress supposed to do something every time you want to threaten a tariff? Like, every other country has tariffs. It's not like a radical thing. Every country has tariffs. Now, did America maybe benefit from being more free trade than anybody else? Maybe. In aggregate, yes. For particular communities, no. It's actually one of the situations where the people at the top probably benefited the most in tariffs. I mean, from free trade. The people in the middle did not, and that's who voted for Trump. So I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for the dust to settle on this. I do think that the neocons are being a little bit histrionic about this. Like, I don't think it's really going to matter. I don't think anybody really makes a decision on anything based on a 20% based on price differences. I'm skeptical of the entire idea that people are motivated by money. Like, am I a capitalist? Yes. Do I think money is what motivates people to do this thing or that thing? No. Nobody you might decide whether or not to buy a rental property based on money. Or like where to live. But you might decide to live in New York City or in Philadelphia and Baltimore based on money. Maybe. But even in those cases, you're making decisions where to live based on social, cultural reasons, not because of money. Um, I just don't think money's a motivation. Like, if somebody wants to make a new invention, or start a podcast, or discover something in science, or write a book, money is not a motivation to any of those. I think sex can be motivation. Like, people make decisions based on sex a lot. Money, though, do they? I don't know. I don't think so. Um, People kind of just drift along like flotsam and jetsam. And I think the same with companies. I don't think companies do something because the spreadsheet says so. That's a very my dad would say, "Oh, they do it based on the spreadsheet." I don't think they do. I've never been any place. Of course, I work mostly public sector. But I think that most things are just done because somebody wants to do something, and the money's kind of tacked on after the fact. So yeah, I don't think this is going to make a big difference. I think it's 10% of molehill. Topic: bookstores. Um, Bookstores are kind of low key hilarious right now. So they're these things called books. You can read them, and when you read them, you get these little hallucinations in your mind that tell a story. It's really nice. Um, when I was younger, it used to be that basically all the guys at the bookstore would hover around the fantasy and science fiction sections of the bookstore because that's the area that appealed to them. They had books, soldiers fighting wars, magic systems, all kind of stuff. And then women tended to go more towards the mystery or horror areas, mystery, romance, horror. And those areas more basically women's areas, and the generic book fiction stuff was mostly female oriented. Apparently, further back before I was young, way back, um, the bookstore was more everybody, everywhere. In my age group, it was mostly men got kind of relegated to the science fiction and fantasy sections. What's happened over the past 10 years is basically women authors have, for some reason, all of the books are written by women. I know that's not true because I've met authors, right, in bookstores and talking to people and stuff. It just men have been pushed out by the message. Um, so what does that mean? So where do men to go now when they go to the bookstore? Well, you end up having like you always have like 10 men in the manga section. So we've been pushed out of fantasy. Science fiction still has a few holdouts like Brandon Sanderson or a few others, and some of the older books, like Orson Scott Card, they still hold up there. Um, George R. R. Martin, so there's a few holdouts. So guys go through there, and then there's a lot of romantasy books that just like trash books. I'm not against trash, but it's just like the type of trash is like you. So then, meanwhile, the guys who are in the bookstore go to the manga section, Japanese section, which has exploded in size. Not exploded, but they got a few aisles. I think actually numerically the number of people in the bookstore is like 60-40 women. It's not all women. All the books appeal to women, which is weird. And I haven't noticed that is extreme a case in like New York City or different bookstores. Different bookstores cater to different audiences. And then there's always like the sociology section, which is 100% left wing dribble. That I always walk through it because I'm like, hey, maybe they'll have something good, and then they never do. And then nobody's ever in there. It makes me think it's just political decisions being made. But it is interesting to see where men are going versus women are going in the bookstore. Books, manga is being protected by incredibly inappropriate artwork on the covers, where women are just like repelled by the cartoon anime waifu on the cover, and that protection is what's shielding men from having some kind of thing to read that's not liberal claptrap. Right? It's really fun to watch. I don't know how that's going to resolve itself. I refuse to. I've tried a few. Don't get me wrong. I refuse to read anything by women author because if they're going to kick men out of our everything, I'm not going to give you money. Sorry. You can use your power of establishment to basically kick men out of anything book related. You don't get my money then. I'll give it to somebody who doesn't hate me. I've always just really interesting to watch. It's similar to happened in gaming, except gaming I think men just basically won because we had enough of a majority stake. Um, Literature, men were already the minority, and we just got smaller, and we just got overwhelmed. Video games, men basically were able to hold the line a bit more. It's just interesting to watch. The whole idea, oh, women just want to be nice. No, they don't. They are colonizing maniacs against everything, and then everything they like turns to shit. Um. Anyway, that's my sexism for today. Anyway, I think that's all I got right now. Hopefully, the tech market gets better for the people graduating. It's a really bad market right now. So be sympathetic towards anybody who doesn't have a job because a lot of people don't have jobs right now. I don't know why it's not showing up in the numbers. Anyway, cheers.